Hello everybody, it's Nick and I'm back again for another video. Now of course you might be wondering, wow, what happened to the lighting, the environment change and all that? Well, I ended up getting a ring light. It was only like 30 bucks at Guitar Center, so I figured why not? So I decided that I was gonna get it and, make some better videos for you guys that are a lot higher quality and look a lot better and all that. To get right into it, today we're gonna be reviewing the top 5 albums that really had an impact on me in 2022. Now these are new releases for 2022, and these are all albums that have either impacted me in a way that have made me want to write more guitar and more drums and more technical music. They've made me either want to experiment and try new things in my writing style and whatnot, and or they just slapped and I could just go really hard with these albums at the gym. So without further ado, we're going to get right into it. Coming down at number 5 is going to be Soaked in the Sands by Spire of Lazarus. Now this is an album and this is a band that obviously has taken technicality to an entirely another level. I was always a fan of their first album, Dark Souls, because obviously I like Dark Souls. I think that's pretty, that's pretty self-apparent if you haven't seen it already. Obviously, I've got, the Bloodborne tattoo on there. I mean, if that wasn't obviously apparent. Love the Souls games entirely. But either way, I was a huge fan of that album. So that's really what led me to discover that band, was randomly finding that in 2021. And then once I found out they were releasing a new album in this 2022, I was like, holy crap, I'm all in. And I'll be honest with you, this album was a banger. They were consistent. They brought new elements into their playing style and all that, even though technically it's really only a solo project. But either way, they brought in strings, they brought in saxophone, they brought in clean singing, they brought in a whole bunch of these other elements in there, as well as a very, very polished, particularly well built guitar tone and everything. Everything was super well done. The playing was just immaculate. Honestly, I had to say my favorite song would be Farah. Farah was definitely one of those songs where it just absolutely stood out from the rest of the other songs. It was just phenomenal. So obviously this was an absolute banger and I highly recommend you listen to this album. So the next album on our list is going to be number 4, A Mania Cult by Aborted. Now look, I know this is not a 2022 release, this is a 2021 release, but I did not find this album until 2022. It just flew under my radar for some reason. And look, I love a lot of Aborted stuff. It's great. I love the way that their tone sounds. It's just absolutely just pounding. It's grindcore. It's everything that you want in technical death metal as well. But this album kind of stood out from the rest of the albums for me for a little bit. Because I mean, I'm going to be honest, I really loved a lot of their beginning stuff as far as like their early work. Like say for example, the song, The Carnage It Does. Really great work on there. But this album kind of stood out from the rest of them. It offered something that was an absolutely different feel when it comes to it. And a lot of that had to do with the lyrics. Now, beforehand, Aborted was a lot more like the classical death metal band, where it would mostly tell stories and all that, and obviously there was a lot of gore lyrics involved. However, this one actually decided to take a little bit of a step and take a look at politics. Now, I'm not a person who discusses politics on my YouTube channel. I like to keep that more of my private matter, simply because nobody's really interested. But I did like what they had to say on this album as far as people following the masses of other people, and that can end up leading to a bad situation, which can actually be pretty true. So this album was absolutely phenomenal, and I obviously recommend you listen to it front to back. And if I had a favorite song, I would say I would probably pick the title track, Mania Cult. Just that opening guitar riff is just coming in. At number 3 will be Empyrean by Fallujah. I absolutely love Fallujah. There is literally no way to say it. I absolutely love them. They have such a unique and crazy sound about them. Atmospheric, very ambient. It's just some of the greatest technical death metal that I've ever heard, as well as deathcore elements in their breakdowns. What stood out with Empyrean to me was just in general how they took an approach to the album as well. They actually kind of changed things up a little bit and started opening up with more vocal opportunities in there. So beforehand in some of the older ones, such as The Flesh Will Prevail, you didn't necessarily hear as many high vocals in there, or any of the raspy ones, the nyah and all that stuff that's out there. So this album, I kind of felt like I got hit in the face with that, and I liked it. In general, it was actually a very good, clean approach to it. They did a very good job. Obviously, their craftsmanship of their album was just brutal, and it was actually fantastic. A nice clean polished sound, like I said before, and then obviously they have their ambient elements and all that just make it so amazing. I absolutely love their ambience when they do that. But the difference is with this album is that Fallujah brought on the heavy on some of their songs, including some very classic breakdowns and all that. That classic breakdown is just something that you hear, it sticks in your mind, and you never forget it. So now when you hear that song, you're just like, it's that song. It's kind of like the first time you ever heard a Shadow of Intent song, The Heretic Prevails. Just that breakdown when he's like, I will not rot. I can't do his vocals, obviously. I'm not Ben Zur. but it was something that was balanced very well with their technicality and overall just the ambience that they always bring with their music and the vibe. I like the vibe. I always love the vibe that they bring. Vibe. I absolutely love it. If I had a favorite song to pick off that, it's obviously Embrace Oblivion. That's just generally how I like my music to sound. If I could listen to music that sounded like that all day, I would be so happy as a person. Coming in at our number 2 spot is going to be Elegy by Shadow of Intent. Yes, I just mentioned them earlier. They are an absolutely phenomenal band coming from Connecticut. Well, based in Connecticut anyway. Now half the members live in New York or something like that. But I'm obviously a huge fan of them. In fact, I have this Focusrite Sapphire Pro interface that I bought from Chris Wiseman himself. But as a band in general, I absolutely love Shadow of Intent. They're these guys who are obviously nerds, like me. I am also a nerd. I proudly admit it. They're a bunch of guys who are nerds, played Halo, and were like, hey, let's just goof around and make a studio album just for fun. And then it took off. And then now they have a music career. The other thing about Shadow of Intent is that they're unsigned. They don't have a record label. They're doing everything themselves. I find that to be actually very inspiring, especially as someone who doesn't want to join a record label with his band. So when they released Elegy at the beginning of this year, I loved that album. Absolutely. I listened to that album on repeat probably for the first month and a half. It was amazing. The songs on there were just, so amazing. And all the forerunners that were coming up for the album that they released were absolutely great too. I'd say every single song is solid, strong, and it's very, very good, very well crafted. The point being is that each of the songs are made with heart. Each of them have a good message about them. And it's an anti-war album. And obviously I think we can all say, unless it's necessary, I think we can all say that we're all anti-war. There's a lot of things on the album, obviously, that are more story-like, but the thing is, it doesn't derive, the classic death metal. It's usually just like a gore story. This is a war story. It talks about war, historic wars, all sorts of stuff, ranging from World War II to even modern day wars that we're seeing today. And overall, each song is solid. The orchestra that is written behind it is just phenomenal. And obviously, they've written some songs with some very emotional choruses that grab you, and they will literally take hold in your mind and stay there rent-free, and you will like it. That's the thing. Obviously, such a masterful album. I've never heard a bad Shadow of Intent song, period. I absolutely love the work that they do. I know they're not everyone's cup of tea, and I know that more lately than not, people have been kind of upset at the fact that they're kind of wandering away from the Halo lyrics, but I think it's a natural progression at that. I mean, you can only really make lyrics about Halo for so long. And not only that, but I honestly find that their new work is probably some of their better stuff that's out there. Don't get me wrong, I love the first 2 albums, Primordial and Reclaimer. Absolutely great. Melancholy I listen to on the regular whenever I go to work out. I love the type of album that it is. I love that it's basically a concept album with a storyline, with each song going through the part of the story. It's absolutely masterful. So when they decided to do a collection of war stories, I was intrigued and I liked it. Overall, great album, and I highly recommend you go listen to it. And if I was going to pick a favorite song, This Coming Fire. One of the top albums I will ever listen to. Now, when it comes to the number 1 pick, I'm sure you all can kind of guess what it's going to be. I mean, I've mentioned them quite a few times through my drum shorts and whatnot. Pain Remains by Lorna Shore. Now, I'm going to be honest, I kind of slept on Lorna Shore for a very long time, but I started listening to their new stuff once I heard the To the Hellfire EP, or I forget what the name of the EP is now. Forgive me for that. Either way, once I heard that EP with Will Ramos on it, I was like, wow, these guys are doing something definitely different. And then I went back and listened to some of their older stuff, and I was like, it's kind of similar, but I can see why this kind of stands out a little bit. And definitely, I think that this album deserves the number 1 spot for a reason. See, the thing is that's different with Lorna Shore is that Lorna Shore actually bases things off of emotional experiences when they write their songs, and also stories as well. But they kind of take things in a little bit of a different approach. Whereas the classic metalcore style was basing things off of feelings and all that and emotions, Lorna Shore takes those feelings and emotions and crafts them into a story so that way you can grasp it. But it's also a way to express your emotions and your feelings. And obviously, each song is blistering speed. Austin Archie is blast beating until his arms are literally noodles. I don't know how he does that. It's absolutely phenomenal. Will sounds like a beast, obviously. And then we cannot forget the obviously beautiful riff work when it comes down to each song of the album. Everything is really well written. There's a lot of repetition as far as how the riffs are made, but I'm fine with that. They've obviously found something that's a style that works for them, and that's down-picking riffs at ungodly speed. They make James Hetfield sweat. That's how fast they're down-picking that. What's his name now? I literally actually talked to him the other day. How did I forget his name? Like I have to look it up now. Okay, you know what? I'm going to stop it. I'm just going to look it up right now. Lorna Shore. Adam Tom D'Amico. How did I forget that? But either way, I think all members of the band are doing an absolutely phenomenal job, and I think that they should keep doing what they're doing. Definitely excited for whatever next album comes up. And if I was going to pick a favorite song, that's going to be kind of hard to do, I'm going to be honest. I actually liked a lot of the album's songs, but if I was going to pick an absolute favorite, it's a split. I'll pick two favorites for this one. It has to be Sun Eater and Soulless Existence. With that being said, guys, that'll be the end of this video. Hopefully you liked it. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you maybe agreed with some of my picks. If you didn't agree, just comment down below respectfully, keyword respectfully, what you thought would be the better albums to pick. And check out some of the other videos that are going to pop up here too in just a second. That'll be really cool too. But other than that, guys, thank you for sticking around. Thanks for watching this video. Drum shorts twice a day, every single day. There's no end coming. We'll see you guys in the next video.